Hello, and welcome back to the sim. In this one, we're jumping in with the HJet version 2, having a progress look as we're now into the betas. So we're on the ground here at Sim Add-on CYGK. This is a really beautiful looking airport and looks very much like the real thing, which I happen to fly into today in the C-24 RC era. But we're here with the HJet. We've got all of our passengers on board. Everybody is ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and get the main door, the cargo door, and the front cargo door closed up and jump in. So inside we have our brand new HJet version 2. This thing's pretty cool, so I thought we would see the startup of the screens and what they do together. I already got the yokes out of the way, and now when we turn on those batteries, of course, ground power is available. We're going to go ahead and get that all in. And wow, this looks pretty cool off the start. So here we are, we're AHRS aligning, and now we finally have separate pieces on each of the screens. So even on the far right hand side, you can go ahead and independently control what we see over here. So you can have the HSI map, the inset map, you can have the map off. This PFD on the right hand side is completely independent from the left hand side. So that's one of the things that is really neat. And it does allow you to split this one independently as well and control the rightmost screen and put something different. So we're going to go ahead and keep this one back in full screen mode. We'll leave it alone and we'll focus here. For the GTC on the left hand side, it tells you that it's the light blue. Light blue refers to this blue bar, and purple refers to this purple outline. So using these controls, you can control which screen it's going to be on. And of course you can still bring up the pan and do all that. But if you have controls, you can also move which screen it is controlling. So now that we're on that screen, if we go ahead and we bring up our checklist, that's where our checklist is going to go. So the physical controls still work, being able to control the checklist. However, now it's going to go to wherever the blue pane or the left GTC's focus currently is. So yeah, you have all of that functionality still available to you. So when you are in your checklist pages, you still have the ability to move to independent checklists. And of course, you can also use your physical controls that we had from before to be able to step through, move down, move up, and check those things off. Next up, you also still have in your aircraft systems, you have all of the same status, environment, all the same controls that we had before. So if I want to see my Synoptics for environment, for electrical, fuel, hydraulics, ice protection, all that information is there. You have your system controls, so you can get into your exterior lights, you can get into your interior lights, which have all been redone, so you can control the backlight brightness. You do have your cabin lights, and you do have your cockpit lights and being able to add light. You've got your pilot footwells, you got the seatbelt, you got the no smoking. Basically everything is still there that we had before, and you have your thermostat controls if you want to be able to control any of the temperatures. You still have your sim options pages, so here you come into your load manager. So this is where we're able to go ahead, add our 2 passengers, We're going to go ahead and get our fuel load up, and since we are using the E2 mode, we definitely have a lot extra fuel that we can carry, and we're going to put some baggage in while we're at it. Under your sim options, this is where you're going to find your doors, your GPU, passengers, and E2 mode to show the auto throttle. And of course, there's a couple things. We've covered this before. E2 mode is auto throttle, auto deployment of spoilers, and that extra 500 pounds, 300 of which is extra fuel, or 500 pounds and don't use the extra 300 pounds of fuel, but you do have all of that there to increase your range. So we're going to come back and cover some of this a little bit more after. For now, let's go ahead and get into what our plan is now that we've got it fired up. So to do this video, we're going to do a flight from Sim Add-ons CYGK down to Sim Add-ons CYHM, or Hamilton. For this flight, we're going to depart from Kingston Airport. It does not have a specific departure procedure that you would load, so it's 0 departures available. Basically, there is a departure procedure regarding avoidance and noise, but there isn't a departure procedure that's going to give you RNAV altitudes and restrictions. Because of the winds, we could take runway 25. However, 25 is 3,900 feet. It's almost 4,000. 19 is still totally fine with a 3-knot headwind and a 2-knot crosswind. So we're going to go ahead and take 19 and give ourselves 6,000. So that's a departure to the south. And then we're going to make the right-hand turn, and we're going to head out to Elixir. From Elixir, we're going to head to Dead Key, and then from Dead Key, we're going to head to Colts, where we're going to pick up the Colts 7 arrival. And so on the Colts 7 arrival, this is going to bring us in, and you can see for runway 24, the GNS Zulu, we're going to end up coming out to Exozus. And from there, we're going to be coming in probably for the RNAV 24, because when we look at the winds, it is a straight shot. 9 knots is what it's being predicted for us to see there. So that's the plan. That's going to be the flight, and we'll brief the procedure for the approach when we're in the air. Now, obviously, with all these screens, there's a lot of stuff to cover. Hopefully we'll get through some more of it in the air. Just keep in mind that it does have 2 now identical GTCs. So even nice is that on the right side, we can go ahead, we can throw it to weather. Let's go ahead and get ourselves going. We're going to head over to the checklist, battery. Then what you got is, of course, pressurization norm, electrical on and norm. So everything is norm. Plus, of course, we do have our ground power. We're going to come over to the ELT. Our nose wheel is on. Nose wheel steering is on. Landing gear is down. We've got our alternate gear handle. That is stowed. We have our parking brake. It's set. Our flaps is up. Our thrust lever is cut off. Our speed brake is retracted. Ice protection panel, so looking at the entire ice protection panel down here, you're going to see that everything is in the norm with engine anti-ice set to off. So all that looks good. So when we come up and look at that checklist, ice protection, fuel panel, trim, checked and set. So looking at our trim panel, again, same thing. Everything is in the norm. Our windshield heat panel, so again, norm, pneumatic panel, all in the norm. And then our glare shield up here, everything is dark or good. Chime is normal and dark, so it's not going to mute anything bad. And avionics initialization is complete. So head over to the next checklist. Yes, we told our passengers what's going on. Rudder pedals have been adjusted. Seats and seat belts are adjusted and secure. Doors are all closed. Parking brake is set. CAS messages, that's these. We have reviewed them. Nothing out of the ordinary. Electrical panels. So when we come down to our aircraft systems and we go to the electrical panel, we can see that we are picking up 28.5 volts off of the external power, and each one of our batteries is at 25.4 volts. So we are doing good there. So we can head back to our checklist. Of course, I could use this one. I always forget now that it's in both places. So our electrical volts will be fine. Our engine start. So select engine and press it. So nothing's changed here. We still have the awesomeness that is just hit the start button and then right here click, so it takes it out of the detent, and keep an eye on the instruments. Yeah, and just like that, you've got your 20 seconds, and it's up and running. And there we are in idle. So let's go ahead and start up engine number 1. Click there, and then we click there to put it into or out of cutoff. Oil pressure is coming up. Starter went out. And we are a good start. So, engine anti-ice as required. Currently, we are looking at outside air temperature -1. We can go ahead and put that on when we need it. Of course, we can turn our cabin power back on. And now we want to head back into our systems. And then we can go into our sim options, and we can get rid of our GPU because our GPU is no longer needed now that we've started. So let's go to our load manager. We are set up. We've got our fuel, more than enough fuel, 2,400 pounds. We got our passengers and our luggage for them. So let's go to the initialization, and we're going to do our pre-flight. Our stick shakers. And we are complete. So test status is complete. Going to weight and fuel. We are going to sync all from sim. So we've got our crew and stores. We have our passengers. We have our takeoff. So we're going to do our FOB sync. So our fuel on board, 360 gallons. There's our 2412. And we've got our estimated landing weight. So we're going to our speed bugs. We're going to go ahead and get from sim. We've got our speeds. So we're going to go ahead and get them off or on. We can, if we want, set up our landing speeds. And if you wanted these, I usually do a get. Now these get with either side, which is cool. You could turn these on if you wanted these up as your speed bugs so that you could see them in case you need to do an immediate return to land. For whatever reason, again, it's up to you. I usually leave them off. I would come back if I had an emergency. So now everything's set. We're going to accept the initialization. We're good and ready to do our flight plan. So we're flying out of CYGK. And we're going to CYHM. I really want a QWERTY keyboard. Then we're going to go to our procedures. And again, like we said, there is no departure procedure, so we do have an arrival. We're going to be looking at an arrival for runway 24. We are doing the Colts 7 into runway 24. Transition is none. It is Colts. So that's all set up. So we are going to load that arrival. Come back to our flight plan. And you can see we go to Colts, EggPeg, pop-up, Exos, or no pop, Exos, and then it's a manual sequence that gets us to our next leg. So it's a vectors to our approach that we're going to have. VNAV. So here's your VNAV profile. VNAV is enabled on the climb, maximum climb 210 Mach 0.57. Our transition altitude is set at 18,000. Our altitude speed limit, so below 10,000, we have a 250 knot speed limit. And in our terminal area, our speed limit is 200 knots below 2,500 feet AGL. And so that's within 4 nautical miles of CYGK. So that's pretty cool. In our cruise, 270 Mach 0.72. And in our descent, 270 or Mach 0.70. And a -3 degree pitch attitude is what it's going to calculate. We do have an altitude speed limit of 250 knots below 10,000. And then same thing within 10 nautical miles of CYHM. And below 3,000 feet AGL, it will drop us to the terminal speed limit of 200 knots. Now it's also going to do its auto speed slowdowns as we enter the approach and we start setting up our stages of flaps and gear. And then on the final approach, it should also drop us down to our approach speed. So a lot of cool things happening with that auto throttle. So we've got our flight plan in. That part is good to go. Engine anti-ice as required. We might turn it on for the sake of the video. So looking down here, we're going to go ahead and put our engine anti-ice on. So zooming back in, let's go ahead and external power. Yes, we disconnected and flight controls are free and correct. Wing anti-ice as required. Well, it's set to norm, so that should automatically go in and shouldn't be something we have to worry about. However, our transponder code, and as you'll notice, auto is already enabled, which is great. And transponder code, I think I had 4257 today. We'll go with that. So there we go, 4257 in the box. And it's 122.5 actually here. Transponder code and flight ID is confirmed. Yes. Flight plan is entered. Navigation source. So we want to make sure to get ourselves on the FMS. And our altimeters are set. So our altimeter reading here is 3016. So let's go ahead and get that up to 3016. I have physical controls, which I am using. Obviously, you would normally hover here, get yourself to 3016, and then let's make sure we do the same up on the standby 3016. So those are set. Flaps set for takeoff. So we're going to go ahead and set our takeoff flaps. Speed brake. We want to extend. We want to see right here on the display that it is extended. And then we want to retract it. And then we see that it is retracted. cabin signs as required. So in your system controls, you can go to your interior lights, and like we said, that's where you've got your cabin light and no smoking. Parking brake, we're going to go ahead and release. We're going to bring our weather back up on this side, and we're going to bring our map up here. And then of course we've got our normal status systems on the left hand side. Brakes, we're going to check them. Nose wheel steering. And our lights automatically come on. And nose wheel steering is confirmed. I just thought this was cool. They went ahead and they put in a de-icing bay. Isn't that awesome? Well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a quick de-ice, and now we'll make our way. I just thought that's great. De-icing. Alright, so you don't need to see me taxi. This is going to be kind of slow. Nose wheel steering, flight instruments checked. Because we got to taxi all the way up the other side. So we do have to enter the runway, taxi up the runway all the way to 19. So I'll catch you when we are at the other end. Okay, so we're at the end of the runway, or the start of the runway. We are on the display threshold, which you can take off from, so we're going to maximize all the space we can. So, flaps set for takeoff, yes. We've got our trim set, not yet, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to get our trim set. So there's our trim. It is in the green, so if you're concerned about that, that's right here. As long as those triangles are in the green, you're good. Our yaw and our roll is also appropriately set. Speed brake is retracted. Cast messages look good. Temperature control is in manual. So if you are curious about that, that also is down here in aircraft systems. That was in the thermostat. And we can go ahead and put those into auto. And of course, that makes that cast message go away. Navigation is mostly set. So we want to sync our heading bug because we're going to take off of that runway heading of about 188, 190. We want to go ahead and get our altitude dialed in. We're going to be going up to flight level 280. So we'll just go ahead and put in 280. And we want to get our flight director on. So we have our flight director on. We are going to put ourselves into takeoff mode. So TOTO. And you could have pressed the button right here, or you have the key binding for doing that, which is auto throttle takeoff. So now that those are set, we have our heading, we have our altitude. If we go ahead and turn on the auto throttle, that will kick us off. But as far as navigation, that's set. Flight guidance is set. That's the takeoff mode. Told data, takeoff landing data, that is all confirmed. Takeoff briefing is good. Radar, well, we're going with weather, that's good, and ice protection as required. Everything is in norm, plus we do have it. So after takeoff, it's going to be landing gear up. Verify the yaw damper is on. We can get the flaps up over 130, and thrust levers go to MCT. However, since we're using the auto throttle, it's going to manage that, so we get to skip that. Flight guidance, so we will go into heading mode. We're going to start our turn towards Elixir, and then we're going to use the wonderful features of the Direct 2s and get everything working the way it was intended, which is pretty awesome. Alright, so from here, we're going to go ahead and we are going to throw our map back up for now. And let's go with that auto throttle button right there. I have a switch. Heels go to the floor. Pushing with our toes. We don't want to brake. And rotate. Come on, get off there. And gear goes up, tap the brakes. We're through 130. Control that pitch. And yaw dampers on. We are not, oh, this is flying great. So we're going to go ahead and get the autopilot on. And we're going to go into heading mode. And we're going to go ahead and go into flight level change at this point. So you see it go to climb 200 because it's holding us to 200 within 4 miles of CYGK. So then we're going to go ahead and we're going to head our heading in the direction of Elixir. And so it's going to take care of the climb for us. And as you can see, we've now moved to 210 knots because we are now above the altitude, not the distance, of the terminal restriction. Cool. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to come down now, and what we want to do here is we want to go to our Direct To page. Of course, first thing we can do as well is zoom out on our map so we get a little bit 25 miles. That's good. It'll give us something to see. What we want to do is we want to go to our Direct To page, or go to our flight plan, and it's going to be a little bit easier. We forgot to put in our en route waypoint. Oops. I knew I forgot something. Elixir. Enter. There it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on that. We're going to hit Direct To. We're going to activate that. And we're going to go ahead and go into nav mode. So by clicking on nav mode, because we are in FMS mode, it's now going to turn in, and it captured the FMS or GPS mode. So from Elixir, we needed to go to dead key. This is so clean with everything set up now. It's so nice. So we can see our restrictions that we do have. It's no pop. So if we look at the Colts arrival, the only place, so Colts expect 11,000, but it doesn't have a hard restriction, whereas we are going to have at no pop a hard above 3,000. So Colts is an expect, so you don't end up with anything fixed at Colts, which is pretty cool. So we're going to go ahead and see if we even get up to 280, but here's where it's calculating and predicting our top of climb. Just after Elixir, the VNAV is saying that's when we're going to get to 28,000. So that's pretty cool. Got to love the technology. Let's hop outside for a second. That kind of looks like the clouds today. They were a little bit flatter, but definitely had rolling poofs, and it was coverage across the board. Had to go up and down through it. So while we're on our way up, what else is new? Well, in the VNAV, we covered the profiles, as well as the climb restrictions. That's really slick. So under our map settings, we've got the ability to handle our declutter and our detail just like we did before. We can have our orientation heading up, sync all maps together, sensors, do we want traffic, terrain, connects radar, so that's your ADS-B radar, so you can stick that right on the map if you don't want to have that up separately. In the inset window, you can have the flight display text, or you can have the VSD text, or display, I guess is a better term. You can say that whether you want airspaces and airports, VORs, NDBs. So we're going to leave it with airports and airspaces for now. And then under other, north above 1,000 when you zoom out. And I like having my track vector to show me where I am 60 seconds out. And range, selected altitude range arc. So that's the banana. I love the banana. So we want to make sure that that is on. And all these settings should persist for you. If you looked at the traffic, you could see the traffic window and then your traffic settings, relative, traffic display. So relative is above, below you by how much. Absolute would show you the absolute value. You have unrestricted, above, normal, and below. So these give you a wider vertical range. If you wanted just above you because you were climbing, if you wanted below you because you're descending, these can offer different ranges, and normal gives you a small above and below, whereas unrestricted is a much larger above and below. When you're in auto mode, it's going to automatically select the correct thing. You could force it to TA only, you could force it to altitude reporting, in which case you wouldn't get traffic. On, which is your transponder's on, but you're not getting altitude reporting, and then standby. Leaving it in auto, it manages all that for you, even on the ground. Weather, so then your weather selection, do you want connects, do you want weather radar? So you can pick between the two of what you want. You've got your Direct To page, you have your flight plan, your procedures, your charts, which obviously don't work, hence the buttons there. Aircraft systems, checklists, and utilities, where you've got your weight and fuel, you've got your minimums, you got your timer, your GPS, all that. Oh, we already crossed through, so let's go ahead and hit standard baro and dial you back to 29902. Cool. So coming down here, we covered utilities, we got our speed bugs. You can go to waypoint information as well. So we could pick a airport, CYHM, which is awesome. There's the info. We can look at the frequencies, which is really cool. So you have your ILS frequency as well for runway 12, which is neat, it picks it up. You can go into the weather. So you can see 260, 131, that's where it is. So it's weather, wind 230, speed is 8 knots, visibility 15, 22 feet overcast, temperature is 0, dew point -4, and the altimeter setting there will be 3010. So that is the current METAR there. This is an awesome page. It really gives us a lot of information. You can look at the runways as well. You can see that 24 is 6,000 feet, 148 wide. Normally, if you were clicking on these, I think in a real plane, it would pull up the chart for these things, which is pretty cool. Waypoint options, you could show it on the map. I guess normally you could grab a Direct To out of it. And then procedures, you can see the procedures. So again, we're going to probably do we will be doing the 24 Zulu, so it'll jump to that procedure. So we can go ahead and load that procedure. And we can actually have it take us from no pop. So we're going to say we want to go from no pop, and we are going to set our minimums. So our minimums on this one, and as we look out, just as we are approaching flight level 280, right around Elixir. So that's pretty cool. It did know that we were going to get there. So jumping over, now that we've added our, and we should be, oh, there we are, over by Elixir. So now that we've gone ahead and we have added our runway Zulu 24 starting at no pop, it has added it in for us, which is great. So we can go ahead and we can open the chart, and the chart tells us everything we need. So we got our ATIS, we have terminal, who we're going to be with, ground, final approach course is 239, it's going to dial that in automatically. LPV, decision altitude, decision height, so 1017, 262, so 262 above, which is 1017 MSL. And missed approach, climb 3100, tracking 239 to Iklop. So that's a straight out to Iklop, and then you're going to be on right-hand turns in the hold at 3,100 feet. Recommended that at Mugzig 3990s, when you can pick it up, they recommend approaching 2,500 to pick up the glide slope just under 1 nautical mile, so 0.9 nautical miles from Kedis, where we want to see 2,200 at the glide path at the FAF. So LPV, as we said, decision altitude is going to be 1017. I always round that up to 1020. So let's go back into the plane, and we'll go ahead and we load that guy. And if we go to our utilities and we go to our minimums, it's going to be barrel minimums, and like we said, we're going to go 1020, hit enter, and you can see here we now have barrel minimums at 1020 on our PFD. If we wanted to control our timer, there's a count up, a count down. We can hit the start button, and of course it goes. We can hit the stop, we can hit the reset, we can hit the start, we can just hit the reset, and it continues. It is pretty cool. So you still have that. You can see your GPS status. This is a nice little add-on by Working Title. Adds all the GPS status. Very cool. Your weight and fuel, of course, we know what this is. Sync all from Sim. So this is calculating, this is our fuel totalizer. Estimated landing weight 9416, estimated landing fuel 1487. So we'll have plenty of excess fuel. So we covered that. There's also the nearest page, so you can bring up nearest intersections, VORs, you name it. You can look at nearest weather, so you can get the different weather stations and get their ATISs to see the weather from those stations. Pretty cool as well, if you're looking for weather updates. So yeah, this is really exciting. Really does allow us to put a lot of information up on the screen at one time. And again, if you're in lock mode, you can use this to pan the pane, or if you have H events, you can map those yourself. So that way, as you can see, we can put something over here. So instead of status, we could go ahead and we could put the map up there. So there's our map, while we come back to the center area, and then maybe here we've got our checklist. So landing gear, yaw damper, flaps, thrust, flight guidance, ice protection, cabin signs, all of that was good. Pressurization, as you can see, we were fine. And altimeters, we already did that. So in our cruise, altimeters are set. Systems, we are monitoring them. So going next, so landing field elevation, verified, set, yes, 810, that is correct. Engine anti-ice. So outside air temperatures, minus 49 degrees Celsius. We could come down here and go ahead and shut off the engine anti-ice. Altimeters, so those will be set in the descent. So with that, we can go back to our aircraft systems and look at our environment. That looks good. Our electrical, everything is looking good. Pulling 52 amps on this side, 31 amps on that side. Fuel, again, we're out of this tank, mostly off of the center still. So lots of fuel. Hydraulics are good. And of course, our ice protection systems. Left wing temperature currently 97 degrees Celsius. I'd say that's pretty warm. And our engine inlets are looking good. Of course, they're cooling down because we did turn off the engine anti-ice. So static air temperature 49, and everything is in the green. So yeah, this is really sweet with the level of control and capabilities that we now have. So I'm really excited about what this is going to bring for everyone and the level of capabilities that's finally gotten this to that sort of peak. I don't know really what's left. I think there was a fantastic job done. It's been integrated so far very well with all the custom pages and plugins that belong to the HJet. I don't even know what to have up. There's so many screens, so many options. What do you put up? It's so hard to pick. It's funny. There's our top of descent. So if we go to our flight plan, we are 2 minutes out from our top of descent, so we'll come back in another minute. So as we're approaching our top of descent and we're close to it, we're going to come up here, we're going to arm VNAV, it's going to go into VALT, and of course we need to dial it down. So we're going to go ahead and put 3000, and we're going to let the V path take care of us all the way down to 3000. So 3000 is because the Colt 7 no pop is 3000, and it's going to be, well, technically 2500 is the recommended. But we can pick up the glide path at Mugzig around 3990. So again, 3000 at no pop is going to be plenty for us to get Mugzig at 3000, which is going to allow us to pick up that glide path as we're somewhere in between Kedis and Mugzig. And here comes our vertical track. And our auto throttle pulling back. So again, we stayed in FMS mode this whole time for the speed control. So it's been pulling everything from the rules and regulations of the FMS. We're grabbing our glide path, or our vertical path, I guess, our V path, and we're going down as far as 3000. And when you look in, 3000 is the actual hard restriction on the arrival. There is no restriction before that. Altimeters transition set. So we need to set up our altimeters, and again, great that we can just hop in, go to the airport, YHM, go to the weather, and 3010. So we're going to go ahead and go to 3010. Which is going to adjust our V path. And we need to do that on our backup as well. 3010, 3010, so we are good. So we're going to go ahead, jump back to our flight plan on this side. We can see everything. So over here, let's go ahead and bring up our aircraft systems and make sure that our status is good, which of course it is. If we jump into our, we actually want our speed bugs. So let's go ahead, get from sim. It's gone, brought those down. So let's flag those all on. We can see our approach speed of 116 and our reference speed of 111. So we've got those handled. We have briefed our approach. We've got our missed approach in. We are good. Our aircraft systems are checked. If we come into our interior lights, of course we can get our seat belts and no smoking back on, let everybody know where we're going. We could bring up traffic for the sake of having traffic. It goes Colts, EBCAG, then no pop, and then Exos manual sequence no pop. So even though the IAF and it have the same thing, we do have to interrupt those additional items. So if we come here and we remove that waypoint, and then we remove Exos, remove that waypoint. Of course, we're in V pitch because now the path is a little messed up. So we need to get rid of the manual sequence. And so now it'll go from EGPAG to no pop. No pop is where we want to be at 3000. So we're going to go ahead and throw that in there. We now have 3000. 3000. We are still on V pitch, but you'll notice we are a ways off of where we need to be because it was calculating we were going to have to go out and come back to it. So here, if we want, we could instead go into VS mode. And now we're in VVS, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to throw in 2,000 feet per minute. We'll throw in 3,000 feet per minute, and this is going to slow to 200 on its own. But if we go into manual, we can slow right back to, well, it would have dropped to 250. Actually, I want to show this. So you're going to actually see it on its own pull back to 250 because we were within the point at which the FMS said it had to slow down to not break 250 before 10. So it needed to start that early. So as you see it get slower, it'll make it. So we're going to descend at 4,000 feet per minute just to try and hit before no pop our bottom of descent. And we are headed for the clouds. everything is just slick. You can see no pop minus, you're at 210, so there's a speed restriction of 210. So we're going to cross there at 210. It's pretty cool. This is by far one of the neatest things, I think, is just the level of which all these pieces coming together. And we are trying to get on VVS to get back on our V path. Ice protection not active. We're going to go ahead and get those engine anti-ices on because the ice is detected, which it would be. I mean, I picked up some ice today going through the clouds. So there comes our V path. You can see speed has already reduced itself to 210. And we're back on path. And it's aiming for 210 knots. As you can see here, we're on the path. And what's nice is now that we're cleared for the approach, you can come up and you can arm approach mode. Hello? Approach mode. Or not? Maybe we literally have to cross no pop, but approach mode should have allowed. Okay, vertical altitude. Now the diamond shows up.
Autopilot.
Whoops. No, that stays in. I meant approach. There we go. Okay. The glide path is now armed. And 210 on the speed. And as soon as we put in flaps 1 for our approach, you saw that it automatically dropped the speed to 150 knots. So that's going to allow us to get our second notch of flaps in because 160 is the speed limit for it. Note, we are not going to dial down from 3,000 feet. We're instead going to stay at 3,000 and intercept the glide path as it comes in further out from the FAF, instead of trying to meet the two directly at the FAF. And we are turning in. Lovely Hamilton. Alright, turning in for the FAF. So, altimeter's done. Seats, seatbelts, passenger briefing, avionics are set, landing date is confirmed, CAS messages. Approach briefing is complete, and flaps to take off approach mode before landing gear goes down. I usually do that as I see one diamond coming in. I will drop the gear. Speed brake is retracted. Flaps will go landing or takeoff approach if ice. Ice is detected, so I guess we leave them in takeoff or approach mode. So there comes the diamond. One dot. Gear's going down. We are below the clouds. We can see the runway in sight. And glide path is captured. And we'll go ahead and go landing flaps, and with flaps and gear out, we now slow to approach speed of 116. So this is just really, really cool, everything that you're able to achieve with the automation. And when we touch down, it's going to deploy the speed brake automatically as we apply our brakes. So as we apply the brakes on touchdown, it will also deploy the speed brake for us. So landing gear is down, speed brake flaps, ice is detected, but whatever. Airspeed, we want to aim for VREF, so we're currently on approach speed and we'll be aiming for VREF shortly before landing. Autopilot, yaw damper, disengage, same with auto throttle. They all go out at 200 feet as per the AFM. Landing, so thrust levers will go to idle, apply brakes after touchdown, and verify if speed brake is extended. Yeah, so much information. Do not, don't need to get rid of the checklist. I got the map up. You have an inset map in the HSI if you want to zoom that out. There's just so much information and screen real estate available to us now. Again, 200 feet, it's actually 260 feet, I think we said, because it's the LPV that goes to 250 or 260. Just under 300 to go.
Autopilot.
And I'll just go ahead and get it all out. Auto throttle goes out. Whoa. That's on me. And touchdown, brakes, and speed brake is extended. There you go. There's that speed brake, and it's retracting as we got below 30 knots. Well, that's it. We're going to go ahead and get off the runway here, and we'll go ahead and wrap things up at this first look at the progress that's being made here with the HJet version 2. If you made it this far, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and come along on the next one. We're probably going to be picking up again here in the HJet, and you won't want to miss the next progress. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.